Hi, my name is Zena.
Hi, I'm Amaris,
and this is the Sidewalk Senate podcast.
Welcome back to the Sidewalk Senate podcast. I'm Amaris.
I'm Zena.
And today we are coming to you in a different format because, we want to be law-abiding citizens like everybody should be. We are adhering to the guidelines given by the Ministry of Health. We are social distancing, but we are still together. Big up technology, big up Zoom, even though this is not a paid video. So we would like to talk to you all today about a topic that is quite sensitive, whether you're referring to persons on either end of the spectrum, and that is the issue of age. When I say it's sensitive for either end of the spectrum, I mean young persons who are insecure about their youth for some reason. I don't know why. They get kind of offended when you refer to them as very young or too young. And then old persons get offended if you call them old, which I don't understand, because if you're old, you're old. That's just life. For me, I think you should be grateful. You're still walking on planet Earth, but if you want to get vexed because somebody call you old, that's on you. So the reason why we came up with this topic is really of the heels of the passing of our beloved Senator, Franklin Khan, who passed away recently. May he rest in peace. And
May he rest in peace.
We weren't speaking about, the fact that he was this old man, and that's how we came up with the topic. We were discussing the fact that typically in positions of leadership in our country, whether it be public or private sector, whether it be government or non-government, we have noticed that the persons who typically are leaders and, who have the power are persons who are oftentimes old. And, we were discussing the pros and cons of that. So we decided to bring that discussion to, you, our viewers, and, get your opinion, get your way, and, introduce different perspectives. So one of the things that I bore in mind when we were discussing the whole issue of age was the fact, pursuant to Section 23(1), a person may not even qualify to become the head of state, the president of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, unless they are at least 35 years of age. And for me, I think that having a qualifying age is a little bit unfair in the sense that it kind of, yes, it cuts off a good portion, a good demographic of the people in the country, but it also prevents persons who have, the energy. When I say energy, I mean that youthful exuberance and the freshness about them. They are not permitted until they reach a certain age, and by then their perspective would have changed. So there isn't any pervasion of youthful exuberance to the office of the president, in the sense that we would have a sitting president who's a young person like Zena or I. And I think that it kind of disadvantages us as a country, because as young people, I believe that we have so much to offer, and just in our constitution to prevent certain age group of persons from being able to even qualify for that office, I think is a little unfair. So Zena, what's your thoughts on that?
I don't have a problem with the qualifying age. I think 35 is a good age to start with, because I think by then you would have experienced much of life, and you would have enough qualifying experience, and you would have been able to do enough historical research and live through certain events to be able to contribute in that aspect. So honestly, I don't have a problem with 35 years. Like, if you're 25 and you want to be president, as far as I'm concerned, you could wait 10 years. Like, you're not gonna die. I mean, you know what I mean? But like you could wait. My my thing is that we don't have a cut off age. So it's like 35 until you reach what 150 years old, and you could still run for president. Well, not run for president, you could still be selected for president or run for prime minister. And I have a problem with that. I feel like we should have a cut off age limit because we have a lot of age persons who are being who are running the country, and in general there isn't a good enough mix of young and old. So the majority of our politicians are aged, and we just have a sprinkling of three, four younger people. And by young, I mean people in their 40s or 30s. I think we probably have one or two MPs who are in their 20s. But we don't have a fair ratio of young versus old. So I honestly don't have a problem with the 35-year-old qualifying age. I don't have a problem with that at all. But where do we put a cap on it? Like, where does it end?
Yeah, and it's sad because very often when we see persons come to the end of their political career, it's because they have been ousted. And their end is disgraceful, because rather than bow out gracefully when they've noticed, when, all the signs are pointing to the fact that, okay, it's time for me
it's time to end it now.
Pass the baton. They decide, oh no, well, I going down fighting, I built this, all this is happening because of me. And then you have a new crop of people coming into your arena and your space, and they are saying, okay, well, you're not progressive, one, you're not able to, your health, that's a whole other topic, and it's just that they're stuck in their ways so much. So I feel like, especially the older generation, they're so resistant to change, in the sense that, it's simple thing. Personally, just convincing my parents, of the benefits of Wi-Fi in the early days, when Wi-Fi now started to become popular. That was a task. I mean, they are not very old. They're not very old, but what I'm saying this to make the point that the older generation is a lot more resistant to change than the younger generations, because they didn't have the influence of technology, as well as greater influence of technology as we have. For us, we have no choice but to keep it moving and to keep up with the times, because we will be left behind, and we understand that for our own good, we have to make sure, we're on the ball. So as things evolve and change, we evolve and change. But for our leaders, their whole mindset, some of them, is that this has been working for me for the past 53 years. So why should I change? Why should I reinvent the wheel now? And then when I reinvent the wheel, it's like I'm starting from scratch. There's no security in me saying that, okay, I know what I'm doing, because you don't know what you're doing if it's something that you've never ventured into before. And that for me is a serious problem, because your own fear is hindering progress, and is hindering us from, being innovative as a nation. So, like, where do we strike that, balance? Where do we see, okay, we are not just doing all of these things, making all of these strides for nothing. Where do we see the progress then? Because to me, it's barely evident. I'm sorry, but it is.
I feel like on the topic of technology is obviously easier for the younger generation because we were born into it, and or at least we were born when the ball was getting rolling. So it's easy for us to adapt. Like, you don't have to teach a 3-year-old or 4-year-old how to use a tablet or a computer. They just know how to do it. But at the same time, I think that the older folks would benefit from having someone advise them, because it's okay to say one thing, okay, younger people and technology, yeah, but at the end of the day, technology is advancing every day. So it's not really that like this resistance to change. I feel like they should have someone help them integrate into the system. And that's why I was talking about a fair ratio of young with old. Like
Yeah.
young people would have fresh new ideas, and I think
Yeah.
the older folks would be able to help them shape those ideas better suited to our society. And
Yeah.
in any cases where you need technology or you need new advances, something that the younger folks would know about, and the older folks might have a way of doing it, but then it would be easier to get it done this way, or you'll be able to reach more doing it this way. So I really think that they need to come together and integrate their ideas, and from that knowledge transfer, that knowledge sharing from both sides, because I honestly think that there are things that the older politicians can teach the younger ones, and things that the younger ones can teach the older. Like there would be a fair knowledge transfer, and I think that will help to make things more progressive. Because in general, we have MPs out there that are representing constituencies, and the mean age of their constituents, they are twice or three times the mean age of their constituents. It
Right.
doesn't make much sense. Who are you
Yeah.
representing?
Yeah.
Who are you representing when they, like you're on two different, you're not keeping up with your constituents, you're not keeping up with the times. So they really
Yeah.
need to find a way to integrate new technology.
Yeah, I agree. And this is why I'm very interested to see this new ministry is Ministry of Youth
Digital.
Development. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And digital transformation. I am
Yeah.
very
Digital
interested
transformation.
to see where they are going. If it is an attempt to reach the younger citizens and to allow the younger citizens to sort of influence governance in a way by sharing our ideas. I really, if they just there to waste our time, they could press. But I am very interested in seeing where they are going. And for me, even that move, it would have made more of an impact if the minister appointed would have been a young person. I don't know who is the current minister now, to be honest. Oh no, I know. The MP for Lauket, Talparo, I can't remember his name right now. He was recently appointed. But he's not young either. I would have loved to see, a minister appointed who under 40, because that would mean that, when you say you're really about youth development, you're making like a practical stance. And you're proving a practical point, because you would have a young person in charge. But so to that end, I wanted us as a country to be able to see, when they formed this new Ministry of Youth Development and National Service, that we would have appointed a minister who is young, because you're dealing with the youth, and you need, like you rightly said, you need somebody who is able to reach the youth. And who could reach youth but somebody who's closer in age? I'm not saying that they should have probably just take some random 20-year-old and appointed them a minister, give them a ministerial appointment. But what I'm saying is, you need to be able to have somebody closer in age to bridge the gap. So I would have loved to see in that ministry that a minister be appointed, somebody who's 40 and below, because I'm saying I think millennials is up to 40 by now, or late 30s or something. Regardless, 40-year-old stands a greater chance of reaching ages 12 to 29, 12 to 34 than a 70-year-old or a 60-year-old, because simply for the fact that we come from two different generations. So the way that we think is different. For example, persons from, these baby boomers generation, their whole mindset towards work versus a millennials or a Gen Z's mindset towards work and office dynamics are two totally different things. For instance, their whole thing would be, You go to work, you have a job, you're able to provide for your family regardless of what happens in the job. You work through it so long as you're not being harmed physically. You could take any kind of craziness. Millennials, on the other hand,
We're always ready to leave.
ready to bust out. And don't talk for Gen Z. Just
Them don't care about nothing. So we
them
ain't
have
even
no respect for the office whatsoever. They have no respect for work dynamics, for office politics, nothing. Them just, I'm here to do one thing, and that one thing mustn't stress me out. And at the first sign of stress, I go on. I go on. They show up any hour. They leave when they feel. They take how much lunch they want. And at the end of the day, they are satisfied. Our parents' generation, that is unheard of to them. And for that simple reason, having someone from that era lead a ministry where you expected to reach youth and see about youth issues and to develop things for youth in this country, to me, it seems very far-fetched and out of touch. I mean, of course, you still have persons who work the actual employees who work within the ministry. But if we look at it, the different departments in every ministry is some old person. And when I say old, I mean somebody who up there in age. So what really and truly, there's literally little to no change in the way things are done in terms of our country's governance, as opposed to how a company or a department or a particular business or whatever it is run. It's just, there's literally no room made for young persons at the top, and that to me is sad.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying, because if even we look at the workplace dynamics and how the older employees interact with the younger employees, I feel like they withhold information, and I'm not sure if it is an insecurity or if it is selfishness. I'm not sure what it is, but they do not, they make the entire initiation into a new workplace a very tough one, and it creates a toxic environment for that employee. And
Right.
so there isn't a fair share of knowledge. They keep back information. They don't train them well, or they are resistant to training them. And this in turn causes the young employee to not want to ask for help for certain things, And
Right.
it's exactly as I was saying before, where I was saying, if in government there was a fair ratio between young and old, they can learn from each other. And I think in the same way, in the workplace, both young and old can learn from each other, because most old people still don't know how to convert to PDF. They don't know how to set up the projector to turn on the PowerPoint, even though they're doing it like every day of their life.
And they don't know how to schedule Zoom meetings or Teams. None of them things.
Yeah, or how to share the screen. But at the same time, the older employee have knowledge based on the experience of the industry within which they work. They would have knowledge of the company policies, of the office politics, just little things like that. And I think it's important for them to share that knowledge. And then other practical things, like there may be a framework or template to get something done. A certain way that you do this all the time and it already exists. But because you're withholding information now, the new and young employee is going to try to find their own way, create their own template, and thereby reinvent the wheel and waste time doing something that already exists. And I think the same could be said for governance in our country, except it is a little different, because when you look at how it is within the both parties that we bounce from, there are the majority of the politicians are old. So who are they even transferring their knowledge to? Now, I am not sure who say that they have, because I know that they have youth arms. Each of the parties have youth arms. So hopefully that is how they transfer the knowledge. But still, by the time the representatives in these youth, in the youth arm of the party comes into politics, they're already old. They're already in their 40s, in their 50s.
Right.
And if you look at the structure of the party, when they have internal elections to choose whether it's whether it's leader of the party or, chairman and all the other roles, who is next in line for political leader? Chances are it's not a young person. There's a long line ahead of them, even though they have 2 or 3 or 4 member MPs or members in their party who may be at the age of 30. There's a long line in front of them before they get to political leaders. So then we would always have a very aged prime minister. And so that's one thing to look at. But the other aspect is, how do you think the country is going to receive a very young prime minister? Like, if you were to have a prime minister that is 35, do you think, like, how? Because the fact is that the majority of our electorate is old.
I think it would be a 50-50 reception, in that half of the population, well, I should say the voting population, would be happy to see a young person in power, with that level of power, and half might not really receive it too well because it would be a different thing. And we know that a lot of people in this country are resistant to change. That's just the way it is. But I think we could stand to benefit a lot because, for instance, New Zealand has a very young prime minister. She's in her 30s. That's their first female prime minister and also the youngest prime minister they've had. And look at New Zealand, COVID-free, them living their best lives, while the rest of us, stuck in the shroud under this panoramic, still suffering with these masks. And New Zealand, their prime minister was able, to really be innovative and to take extreme steps for a short period of time to ensure that, now they could live a virtually COVID-free life in that country. So I think just by using that one example, we could stand to benefit from a young person, but from a young prime minister. But I think in this country, based on the way that party politics are set up and based on the way our systems are set up, a young person may only be able to achieve that level of power if they look exactly like the persons who are presently in power, just a young version of them. Because in order to be accepted by the persons that can clear the way for you to have that level of access to power and to governance, you need to be able to show that, I am just like you. They don't like change. That's been proven. They are resistant. Okay, let me not say they don't like change. They don't like too much change. So some things they will accept, but there are other things that they're not willing to accept. And if we're being honest, our leaders are basically more or less the same, in the sense that they are from the same generation. They have some of the same, they grew up with some of the same beliefs, they have some of the same values, and they have some of the same perspectives on things, and they would have come through the same political eras together. And I'm talking about our 2 major political leaders, as well as some of the others of the minority parties. So to have a younger person, more so a person in their 30s, lead us, I feel some of the older persons might kick and scream, and they would be resistant in the sense that they don't want to take instructions from somebody who is younger than them and who they think knows less than them. And then others would say, look at us, we are doing something different. And I feel as though it would motivate some of our young people really and truly to aspire to be their best, because they would have a model that's close in age to them that they can look at and say, hey, I could do this too, because look at this person who's only 10 years older than me, 5 years older than me, 15 years older than me, and they are leading an entire country. So I think there's a lot of merit, and it's something that we definitely can consider, but I still think that we are years away based on our present status. If it is, we get so much, if it is seen as such a remarkable thing to appoint a person in a management position, and when I say management, I mean like an impactful management position in a company who's in their 30s, far less for somebody to run the country. So I think we need to consider it as a country. I'm making a public appeal to our elders. Give us a chance, please. We want to be able to give our best in this country while we are still young, while we still have our teeth, and while our bones are not creaking when we walk upstairs, you know. We want to be able to give of our best in the prime of our life. And contrary to what some of you all think, the prime of your life is not 65. It is younger than that. So, you know, we have a lot to think about in terms of that in this country. And I think that, you know, us discussing this topic, it would really give people something to chew on. And I hope that this reaches the ears of persons who really need to hear it. And I hope that, you know, they don't take it out of context. We're not bashing older persons, eh?
Well, guys, we gave you all a lot to think about, and we would love to hear your point of view. So be sure to leave your comments below. What do you think? What do you think about the age limit, the qualifying age, when it comes to being president or prime minister in our countries? How is the office dynamics? I know you all would have some interesting stories. So be sure to look out for our next episode, and remember to like, share, and follow. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Later.
Bye. See you all.